Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to be reviewing Resist. This is a game co-designed by David Thompson, Roger Tankersley, and Trevor Benjamin. Alright, so here is a setup of Resist. This is a game that is about the Spanish Maquis, so the resistance to Franco in the 1930s, and this is kind of a push-your-luck game where there is no official moment where the game is over and you win. Instead, you have to choose when to stop. You're going to complete as many missions as you think you can and then tally up your points at the end of the game to see how well you did. However, if you push your luck a little bit too far, you can have a bad mission that causes you to lose. So essentially, this game ends in failure if you fail 2 missions, so you don't have a lot of leeway there, if you lose 5 civilians, or if you draw a hand of all spies, which we're going to get to. They clog up your hand. So if any of these things happen, your resistance fails, you lose the game, no points for you. However, if you only get 1 to 14 points, it's considered a draw. 15 to 18 points is a minor victory. A victory is 19 to 21, and then a major victory is 22 plus. There is an option for being amazing because you defeated every mission in the game, but I don't see myself ever doing that. Maybe I'm just bad at it. But this is a simple and tight game that ends when you either catastrophically fail or when you tactically decide to end the resistance and withdraw from completing missions. So the way this works is, here's our mission deck. We've currently got 4 missions available, and they're sorted according to difficulty. So there's first, second, and third era missions. The first era ones are the ones that come up first. And as you can see, there are some little bits of information about each of the missions on the cards. So we have how many victory points they're worth. We have a defeat condition, so what happens if you win. Sometimes this is good, sometimes it's bad, so you can have a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory situation. This is the defense value, so this is how many attack you need to get going on this mission in order to defeat it. And then you also have a value of enemy cards that you're going to place above the mission, and those enemies are people you also have to overcome in order to be successful at the mission. So you know the value of attack you're going to have to generate in order to take out the mission itself, but then there's an unknown amount of combat stuff happening above in the enemies that have been hanging out at the mission that you might want to defeat. So basically what you'll do is you set it up like this, and this is my deck that I'm going to draw from. Here's a deck that I can potentially recruit from, but you're going to draw 5 cards from here. 3 of those cards are spies, and there's also ways to get other spies inserted into the deck, which is why you can lose by drawing a hand of spies. They don't do anything. But essentially, I'll draw 5 of these cards, and I'm going to have a planning phase where I decide what to do with them. So there's dual sides to all these cards, because basically you have a side that is less powerful, but you might see this card again. And then you have a side that is more powerful, but you have to put them over in the revealed pile, which means that they leave your deck. So you are dealing with harder missions and dwindling resources as the game goes on, and you're going to have to choose who to sort of sacrifice by revealing their identity as part of your Maquis. So Juana here has an attack value of 1 on the left on her hidden side, and she has a planning action that just lets you look at some cards on the hidden deck, so you might want to try to recruit from here and plan it out. If you reveal her, she has 2 attack, and then you can actually choose a card from the revealed pile. So maybe you'd use this card with someone that you wanted to get back into the deck, and you could put them back on top of the hidden deck. And then similarly, Pilar has different attack values and does different actions depending on whether she's hidden or revealed. Same for Anastasio, Adolfo, and Antonio. So the way this game will work is during your planning phase, you're going to choose where to place your resistance fighters, so you can put them on the hidden side of your play area, meaning that you're going to use that hidden action on the left, or you can put them on the right side, meaning that you're going to use their more powerful action, but they're going to get revealed at the end of that turn. And I'm not going to play a full turn because I don't want to get bogged down in the rules for this particular video, but each of these actions is going to do something different. So if I want to play Pilar, she lets me flip 1 or 2 face-down enemies at 1 mission and then discard one of them. So basically, I don't know what's in these, and they're dangerous. So I'm picking my mission partially based on the defeat condition, how everything's gonna go for me, whether I want the number of victory points printed, and then I also have to worry about the attack value I can generate, and also the enemies I can get rid of. So Pilar is pretty cool because I can flip some enemies and then discard one of them, which is pretty nice. So let's say that I'm thinking about coming to destroy the barracks, which will add enemies to all these other missions, but I'm willing to perhaps risk it. So I can flip 2 of these face-down enemies and have a look at them. So I know that I've got a counter guerrilla, a radio operator. He's got 3 defense, she's got 2, and he's got a survive ability, which means that if I leave him alive, something bad is going to happen. And then she also has a survive, which means even more bad things are going to happen if I leave her alive. Oops. But I could discard one of them because I used Pilar's plan action. So let's say that I want to get rid of this counter gorilla. He's gone. So now I've only got 2 enemies here. One I can see, one that I can't. Maybe I also want to take Anastasio and use him to discard 1 enemy from this mission. So I could decide that I think I could take the radio operator out, so I'm going to just discard this one. And I don't know what it is. But, it would have been a grunt, and I have to defeat it before I defeat all other enemies. So what that means is that there's a grunt in the way. It can actually prevent you from finishing your mission, because you got to get through the grunt first. You got to make sure you have enough attack generated. So that's gone. And then I need to generate enough attack to have 2 and 4 for a total of 6. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm probably going to have to reveal someone to get those higher values. Although I could also just use Adolfo. So Adolfo has a power of 2 on the hidden side and discards an enemy from the mission. So the radio operator is now also gone. Thank goodness. So then Adolfo's got 2 attack. I need to get to 4. So what I'd probably do is, actually, I have 2 more. I can play both of them for their hidden, get rid of nobody this time, and just do their hidden actions, which let me potentially mess around with my decks. So then we would, after all of this planning that I've done, have the actual attack round where we would fight. So in this case, I managed to use my actions to get rid of all of the enemies, but if they're still there, they do stuff to you. So let's have a quick look. Among these people that I got rid of, they actually have some neat little abilities that tell you something that happens when you attack them. So these guys all have consequences. Grunts have a defend ability, which activates at the beginning of your attack phase of the turn. Then the mech key will actually play. And then you're going to defeat your targets, but there are consequences for either defeat. So here, if a mission is defeated, then something's going to happen, good or bad. And there's also survive, because you don't have to kill all of the enemies, but if you leave them alive, they may have some consequences for you that happen if they survive. For example, the counter gorilla is particularly horrible, because if he lives, then you draw a card from the civilian deck and place it face up in the graveyard. If you get to 5 dead civilians, you lose the game. So in this case, however, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 attack. That would defeat this mission for 4. And then we would have to go through all of the consequences of what we did. So we need to do the aftermath. Did we check for civilian loss? Yes, but we haven't lost anybody yet. Did we check the mission outcome? Yes, we're going to win this mission. And then we're going to have to do the things that it says. So you add a face down enemy to all other missions. So that would mean that this mission is starting to pile up over here. This one's up to 4. This one's up to 5. So that's kind of makes things iffy for future missions. Oops. Then we're going to recover. So we clean up any played mech key. We draw a new hand of cards. And we see if we lost from the spies. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to pick out another mission. Add the enemy cards that it needs, so 3. And we'll basically just do it all over again. And that is how you play Resist. All right, so now for some final thoughts. I will say overall, I really, really liked Resist. It was tight and punishing in all the right ways, and I got a real kick out of this one. I think it's a really nice solo historical game for people who are looking for a lighter experience and want to play something snappy that also has some historical significance. I would say that if you're looking to really learn a history lesson from a game, this would not be it, but the general vibe of resistance against fascists was really nice, and I like that this one was actually set with the Spanish mech key as kind of an interesting contrast with mech key from Side Room Games, which is about the French resistance. Resist is also really interesting in the sense that the way that you win is so different. Normally you think of a game as having specific win and loss conditions. Maybe you win, maybe you lose, and that's that. But I like that this one really pushes you to decide when the game is over, because you're always going to want that higher score, but there's such a huge risk to continuing to complete missions, or at least try to, because if you fail 2 of them, you're done. So maybe you fail one mission being an idiot early on in the game, but if you fail one more, you don't get to keep any of the points that you won, and that's terrible. And I liked that element of pushing your luck and just really trying to keep reaching higher and higher, even though there are some significant risks to doing so. And so that was one of the things I think that makes this game a different kind of play experience, and one that kind of keeps me coming back, because I'm like, oh gosh, I don't really think I can win another mission. My score's not where I thought it was. Like, do I just... Actually, a lot of times, to be honest with you, I just lose the game because I am unwilling to stop trying to complete missions because I really want to get that higher score. So it's one of those things that maybe you don't like a win condition like that, but I actually really find it entertaining and enjoy like the temptation to keep going, because I think that that would be something that you experience if you were part of a resistance movement. It's like, all right, well, we pulled it off this time, but what happens when we get caught? Like, when are we supposed to stop? I don't know the answer to that, and I like this game makes you try to decide. I also think that the other elements of surprise in this game are interesting and super brutal. So the fact that you don't always know which enemies you're coming up against on a mission can be really, really risky. So sometimes you really want to complete a mission, you don't have any card abilities that are going to let you kind of scout, and you just have to decide to go for something. And that can lead to bloodshed and disaster, or a failed mission, or failure because you completed the mission, but then the counter guerrillas killed all of your civilians. It is just intense because, you know, the game can be over in a snap if you don't plan very, very carefully during that planning phase. And I think that that is something that is sometimes frustrating. You know, things really just work out super badly, like in a way you didn't want. But for the most part, I actually find it super satisfying, and I just really like this one. I have a lot of fond feelings about Resist, and I think it's one of those games that if you're looking for a snappy solo evening, something that plays pretty quickly, something that offers the right amount of challenge and thought for, you know, the right amount of kind of fun and speed, then Resist is a really, really good choice. That said, there are definitely some things about it that I can see people not liking. I don't really care, but it is a table hog, and cards just go everywhere. Like, you're supposed to keep these cards organized above the mission cards, and sometimes I absolutely make a mess, especially if I'm adding extra enemies above mission cards, like from the consequences of other cards. So that is one thing that can happen with this game. It can get a little bit visually busy. And if you want to distinguish between, you know, I use this resistance fighter for their hidden ability and I use this one for their revealed ability, you want to make sure that you're putting things on the right side of your table. And there's not really a great visual organizer for that because it's just cards. So if you are messy, go into this game prepared for that. I was hoping they would have like really nice playmats, but that did not happen. I would have bought one actually for this particular game. I think there is like a printable or something, but I'm not 100% sure about that, so don't quote me. But the game can be a bit of a table hog, and it can be a bit visually messy if you're not super organized and good at laying cards out straight, which I'm not. I actually failed the cutting with scissors test in 3rd grade because I can't even cut in a straight line. So I do my best. But, you know, those are some, I think, pitfalls of the way that this game is made. But the gameplay itself is so sleek. It's so snappy. I think that the art is really good. It really kind of captures a dim Resistance vibe while not looking depressing. And I just really think there's a lot to like here. So if you are looking for a light, smooth playing, quick, but also strangely brutal game that is set in a historical time period so you can kind of get into like that resistance mentality, then I think that Resist is a really, really good choice for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, help me out on Patreon, and most of all, happy gaming.